You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're tuned in to NightVision Radio, exposing the truth one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Indeed, I'm your host, René Barnett. We've got a great show planned for tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun, but I'm telling you right now, I cannot predict what's going to happen, because we have two psychically charged women on the show tonight as our special guests. First of all, I want to do a couple of quick announcements. I want to thank all of you who have stopped by the NightVision Radio Facebook page and given us a like. We sure appreciate that, and it does help us out. Also, I think I have about 400 more spots or so that I can have that many more friends on my Facebook page. So before it fills up, I hope you send me your invitation, and I would love to be friends with you on Facebook. So hope to see you there, especially any of you who might be interested in our France tour in September that I'm doing with Gary Evans. I'm going to have Gary on the show in a few weeks, and we'll be talking about some of the mysterious places, legends, and history of South France. So you can kind of get a little preview of some of the things that we might be looking into on the tour. So give me a shout on Facebook, or if you can't find me, send me an email through Inception Radio, and they will absolutely get it to me, as they always kindly do. Now, tonight, we're going to get into a subject that kind of started back in the 90s. I don't know how many of you have heard of the Scole Experiment, but it was a group of four. Well, I'm just going to read to you from the ScoleExperiment.com homepage. It says, the Scole Experiment chronicles the extraordinary results of a 5-year investigation into life after death. At the beginning of 1993, 4 psychic researchers embarked on a series of experiments in Norfolk village of Scole, that's in England. The subsequent events were so astounding that senior members of the prestigious Society for Psychical Research asked to observe, test, and record what took place. The investigators encountered evidence favoring the hypothesis of intelligent forces able to influence material objects and to convey associated meaningful message, both visual and oral. Now, my guests tonight are both psychically gifted. They are PATRICIA Baker. She's an author and a psychic, and I'm going to let her in a moment tell you a little bit more about her background. And we also have with us Becky Andreasson, who is very gifted psychically. They both are very much in tune with other dimensions and otherworldly entities, and as well as ETs and cryptids and all those interesting things. And so what PATRICIA and Becky have undertaken is the following similar protocols to what the Scole experimenters did. They're going to take the Scole experiments even further beyond. And for those of you who are not familiar with the Scole experiments, while we're talking here, you might want to look at the ScoleExperiment.com and see from whence PATRICIA and Becky started on this particular journey, because they're very experienced in their areas. but see where they started and what they're trying to go beyond. So Patricia and Becky, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Love you both.
Oh, thank you for having us on the show, Renee. This is a real treat.
Yes.
Now, I have to say, you know, these, they're known as the Supernatural Girls, and that's the Supernatural Girls with a Z.
That's
so,
right.
So, you know, they're sassy. And they have their own radio show, and I'll be posting some things about that as well. So you guys can track them down, and you can kind of follow on what they're doing with these experiments, because they're really, really interesting. Now, Patricia, can you first, you know, give me a little bit of background into, you know, how you got into this work, how you discovered your abilities, and, you know, basically how you got to where we are right now?
Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, let's see. I've always had these abilities, and they started when I was very young. Excuse me. And at first I was very afraid. I would see things in my bedroom, and I would lie awake all night, scared to death. Then it came to a point where I realized that these things weren't hurting me, and I made peace with it. And as I grew older, I talked about it at times to other people, but for the most part in school, growing up, kept it to myself. It was when I went to college that I realized there was an actual space for this, that people could understand, and there were other people like me. So I was able to further my own interests, and I became a dream analyst and a therapist. So I studied traditionally. I went to Boston College, and I also studied non-traditionally with Indigenous people like the Venerable Dahani Wahoo and Slow Turtle and people like that. And it was a remarkable education on all fronts. And as I move forward, because I'd like to at least be able to get to how this whole Scole thing started, Helene Olson, who has passed away, unfortunately, she and I founded Supernatural Girls a couple of years ago. And one of the guests that we had on our show, and I think you know him, Renee, is Robin Foy, who was an investigator on the Scole Experiment. And so he called in. He was in Spain at the time, and he did call in. But before the show, actually 3 days before the show, 3 nights before the show, the entire spirit team from Scole showed up in my bedroom. And they were visceral. I could feel them. They could touch me. I could touch them. It was an incredible, groundbreaking experience for me, because I was able to see people who had passed. I was able to see entities before. But this was rare in the way that they were able to come through almost physically. So this happened 3 nights before our show. Then when we had Robin on the show, we did tell him this is what happened. And we had a wonderful interview with him. He gave us all the details about the Scole Experiment, how it started, and then how it had to come to an abrupt end, which was not something they planned on. But after that, it was clear to both Helene and I that we were being asked to do the next step in the Scole Experiment by the spirit team that worked with Robin. So that's how it all got started for us. And then I'll let you speak with Becky, but that's basically the adventure began. And then we had all the photographs that showed up on my trail cam, which were remarkable, and it gave us further indication that we were definitely on the right track, and this is what we were supposed to do.
That's really wild. Yeah, the Scole Experiments were really amazing in that they did produce, you know, photographic evidence, even physical apportations of objects would show up. So those of you who are not very familiar with that story and the experiments that they did, they had quite a lot of evidence showing up. And after we talk to Becky real quickly here and find out how she got into the picture, then I'll share a quick little story that happened to me in 1996, a Scole-related story. And it's not the one you know, Patricia, so I'll...
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear it.
It's a quickie. So Becky, now, first of all, You have a very, very well-known last name, Andreasson.
Yeah.
And, you know, it wasn't too many weeks ago that your wonderful mom was on, Betty Andreasson, and she's a very, very well-known, I don't know if you use the term alien abductee. Is that, I don't know if she, is that cool?
Yeah,
anyway, and I remember way back in the day, I read a book called The Andreasson Affair. And was written about your mom. And now recently, she's come out with another book about her own experiences and subsequent experiences after that. But you were her daughter, and you had some of these same experiences. But do you credit those experiences with your abilities, or do you think you had the abilities and that's maybe why you had the experiences?
Well, I think truly my life here on Earth was planned to mingle and deal with the other worlds and the other beings, because ever since I can remember, I can't remember not knowing them. You know, so I actually thought they were part of my family. I didn't even realize when I was younger that they weren't part of my family. It was, you know, till I was probably about 6 years old, first grade or a little older, that I realized, okay, there's something different here. And that's when I had come across and understood that, yes, we're all in the universe, part of a family, but yet this isn't mom, dad, uncle, you know, an uncle and aunt or something like that. So, and it was fine with me because I never, you know, experienced really any fear with it. So I was fine with all that, and I just had years and years and years of learning and company and dealing with the other side, back and forth. For whatever reason it had to be done here, it was done. I just did it.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, how did, and you and Patricia, how did you make your connection?
Yeah, so with Patricia, they asked me, and Helene, they asked me on this show, and I went on this show, and then later, Patricia asked me to be a part of it, and I had said yes, and from there on, we just went zinging, didn't we, Patricia?
Yes. Well, I knew Becky. Becky is a very talented physical medium, which is a rare thing.
Now,
and
explain what that is.
Well, a physical medium is someone who can manifest photographs and can manifest objects. And I knew Becky's extremely talented that way. And I felt she was the missing piece, that she would be the third in our group, and that with the three of us, we would be able to manifest photographs, etc. And that's exactly what happened. So I was thrilled when Becky accepted our invitation. I've known Becky's mother for many, many years. I don't even tell you how many years I've known Becky's mom, but we were close friends forever, it seems. And so I was thrilled to be able to work with Becky.
In fact, you're also working with Betty with her book project and any projects related to that. Is that right?
Yes, well, actually, The Andreasson Affair, which came out in 1979, 1980, was a bestseller on the New York Times bestseller list, and it had gone out of print. So I suggested that we bring it to a publisher and see if they would reprint it, and New Page generously agreed to reprint it. And so that's how they went back on the publicity train and came to your show and so many others. And as you found out, they're both terrific guests, both Betty and her husband Bob.
Oh yeah,
they're delightful. People. Yes, and they do have another book that they're working on that hopefully will be out next year, Lifting the Veil, which has just been presented again to New Page. So I know a lot of people are anxious to see what the next book brings, because this is all their personal experiences. This is written by them, not Ray Fowler, so it has a much deeper personal effect in the writing.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Now, I said I had a little story. I was working in 1996 on a television series called Strange Universe. And alongside me was another producer, and she was telling me about having gone to a psychic home here in Los Angeles. Actually, I think it was over here in the Valley in Encino. a gentleman by the name of Brian Hurst. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's quite a well-known psychic around here. And she said that he had this meeting with this group of people who came over from England, and they set up in his garage, and they set a circle of chairs all around the room, and it was by invitation, and she and actually another friend of mine, an editor, were there, and she was telling me of all these things that started manifesting and happening. And she said even one time everybody started staring at her because these lights were circling her head and they were pulling her hair up. She had really long hair, and they were like pulling her hair up and dropping it. And her hair was just sort of flying all around her head with these little lights and things. And I didn't know her very well at the time. Just met her, and I thought, yeah, right. Yeah, sure, all that happened, And I didn't, I didn't think too much more about it. And we were thinking back. I was thinking today, why in the heck didn't she bring that story to the show? Why didn't we cover, Scole on Strange Universe? That would have been a perfect story for us. But anyhow, several years later, after working on many other companies and many other different shows, I formed my own company, and a young woman came to my office, an English woman by the name of Victoria Holt. She was working with Jane Grant and Jane Solomon, who wrote the book called The Scole Experiment, and she wanted to know if we might be interested in, producing a show or selling a show or doing a documentary on it. And I was really, excited and keen about it. And my business partner in England ended up going over to Scole and meeting with the Scoles and all that kind of stuff. But then it's when I really started looking into it. And then I realized that that was the same group that this woman who sat next to me at Strange Universe had borne witness to. Oh. And then I said, oh my gosh, I totally just poo-pooed her and, just didn't believe the story until much later. But anyway, that was just my little entree into the Scoles. It was just really funny because I heard about it from my witnesses before I ever knew who they were, and then later finally put two and two together. Wow. But now, you said they had to stop doing the experiments. Can you talk about that at all?
Yes. What Robin explained to us is they began hearing when they would do their sitting. Now, keep in mind, when they sat for their experiment, they would sit 2 to 3 times a week for several hours at a time. And what began to happen was they were hearing a horrible, absolutely horrible, high-pitched shrieking noise. And it was disrupting their ability to perceive anything. And so they finally talked to one of the members of their team to see what in the world was going on, and they were informed that they were going to be prevented from doing any further work because if they went any further, they would be affecting the future, and they couldn't allow it.
Oh, now I knew that it had something to do with the spirit team saying, this is it. But I don't think I knew that part about it. That's really interesting.
Isn't
now, did they say in what way that could have happened?
It somehow would have affected the timeline, the actual future, and they said it would not be allowed, and that was it. They were forced to stop.
Did they try?
Well, I think they had several sittings going through this horrible noise, trying to work around it, and it wasn't going to let them pass. They had come to the end. And, Robin explained to us in great detail that the reason they were so successful for so long with what they did is they followed the directions of their spirit team to the letter. So this was not something that they sat for and then tried to put their spin on things, or why don't we do this, or why don't we do that. It was they sat, they listened to their spirit team, they followed the directions of their spirit team, period. And so when the spirit team said, you've come to the end of the line, we can't allow you to go any further, that was it. There was no even attempt to really try to go around that.
Yeah, it was, they were getting some amazing results. I know it started out with them being instructed. First of all, they would sit in complete and utter darkness. It was down in sort of a cellar, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And they called it the soul hole.
Yes.
And it was total darkness, and then they would be instructed by the spirit team to snap a photo. And what was strange was later on they were told just to put the camera on the table and then take the film and have it developed. They didn't even, and then later they were told just to put the can of film on the table and the images would still appear. And am I correct that, wasn't it Kodak that ran tests on the...
I'm not sure if it was Kodak or Polaroid, but I know it was one of the big companies that was involved in this. And yeah, it was quite amazing, especially just putting the film in the middle of the table and having it wrapped in the package and then taking it out of the package to have it developed to find all of these very unusual photographs on the film.
And also they had some physical apports, didn't they? Like I know in
they did. They had jewelry, which of course Becky and I are waiting for the jewelry.
Yes, we are.
We haven't seen it yet, but they had a newspaper that appeared in the center of the table, and it was from another time.
It was
so
from the 40s, I believe.
Yeah, amazing things like that took place. Now, the difference is, too, keep in mind that Becky and Helene and I were all located in different parts of the country, and we use Skype as a way to connect. So we have yet to actually, now that it's just Becky and I, and we do have a third medium we've now included to replace Helene, but we're still in all different parts of the country. So eventually, we really hope to get together and be able to do this live and in person because we feel it will make the energy that much stronger. But even just connecting, because Becky is so powerful, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
When we get together on Skype, the biggest challenge we have is keeping Skype functioning.
Well,
because the energy tends to blow it out, and then we're scrambling trying to get it back up again. But
well, just on that note, we weren't able to use Skype with Becky tonight. We tried, and there were these bizarre hums and sounds and echoes and weird vibes coming through, so we had to switch to the landline.
Yes.
That's funny.
What happens?
Yes, it does. It happens with Becky. So again, it was enough among Helene and Becky and I getting together on Skype. Our energy was powerful enough together to draw in and open a big portal and have all of these things start to come through. We have not had any physical apports yet, as I mentioned, but we hope to have that soon. So, and we're also not able to sit for the 3 times a week as the Scole group did in the UK. Right. But again, as we progress, we're hoping to increase our time with it too.
Oh, yeah. Right. I would love to be a fly on the wall there sometime, or maybe a fly on Skype.
Yeah, have to bring you in.
Wonderful. It's
yeah,
wonderful.
I love it. And I've got a lot of activity in my house, so maybe I could bring some supernatural energy to you. It wouldn't come from me, but it might come from my surroundings.
Oh boy.
But now, okay, so you guys got started, and you, like, on your first session, did you have any results at all?
We did. The first thing that happened, well, even before our first session, several things occurred.
Right.
One was we were contacted by Andrea Puharich. Now, I'm sure you know that name. Andrea was a medical doctor, and he brought Uri Geller to this country, Peter Hurkos to this country. He was involved in a lot of psi exploration and research, and he was a brilliant, brilliant man, and I met him. I was very grateful that I met him because he was an amazing person. But he passed away in the 90s, and he, as it turned out, stepped forward to be our spirit team leader on the other side. So he greeted us. He contacted each of us and let us know that he would be working with us as the team leader. So that happened before we even got on Skype together to conduct a session. The other thing is I sent you some photographs, René, that are quite remarkable. And these were taken of an orb traveling, and this thing was huge, traveling up my driveway. Now, keep in mind, I live in the middle of nowhere, 75 acres, no street lights in the entire town. No lighting on the driveway, and we have driveway alarms so that if any person or car were to come on the driveway, we would know instantly. We would know exactly where they were. There was nothing went off, no alarm, nothing. But when I went to look at the pictures the next day, I saw a coyote standing in front of this orb and scared to death, with the hair on his tail standing straight up. He didn't know what to do. There were 3 photos of him, and this orb was definitely moving fast. And finally, the coyote just jumped out of the frame. But this orb was so large and, again, traveling so rapidly. But again, what was so amazing to us, to Becky and Helene and I, when we looked at the photo, was the coyote. The coyote said it all. Yeah. The coyote was transfixed and scared, and it was clear he didn't know what this thing was or what to do.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I saw that picture, and I'm scrambling for it like crazy. I did. Oh, my God.
There were 3
I
of
will
them,
absolutely post it at some point if I
that would be fun for people to see. They can also go to supernaturalgirls.com, and under Supernatural Castle, I posted those photos and some others. So if they want to go to supernaturalgirls.com and click on the tab for Supernatural Castle and scroll down, you will see a number of photos from our Beyond Scole experiment.
Yeah, and if you're listening and if you're not aware, we have a live chat room going at inceptionradionetwork.com, and I am posting pictures intermittently throughout the show. So come on in and join us. And also, if you have a question or comment for our guests, I will definitely try to work them into the show as we can. Oh, my goodness, girls, it's almost time for a break here. I guess it is time for a break. I think we better go, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes with more Night Vision Radio with Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasson. Hang in there with us.
Everyone, Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best. Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to Night Vision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamNouage.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nouage and relax. That's DreamNouage.com. Simple, raw, organic.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're listening to Night Vision Radio. If you're just joining us, we're talking with psychics Becky Andreasson and Patricia Baker. They are going beyond the Scole Experiments and looking for evidence from the beyond, evidence from other dimensions, evidence from the other side, and they've been getting it. So let's get back into their experiments and some of their findings. Now, you know, it was funny because I had also ended up talking to a gentleman here in Los Angeles at some point who had also been a witness at the Brian Hurst hosted Scole party. And this gentleman is a grief counselor here in LA, and he had a partner who was in Germany and was killed in a car accident. And when he sat with the Scoles, they had the tape recorder sitting out. And he said he clearly heard his partner's voice. Not only that, they were actually able to converse back and forth. There was a question and a response and back and forth. And it all made sense. And he said it absolutely was his partner's voice. And I mean, that's just astounding to me, because not only did a little voice come out of this tape recorder, but it was interactive. And there's no explanation for that with a machine like that. I mean, exactly. No earthly explanation.
And this is some of what we're working towards. We've been told by our spirit team that they are actually going to appear in physical form. So it'll take it to the next level. And that's, again, our goal is to be open to all of this so that we can take it to the next level, so that the people who are in the room sitting can actually have the experience of speaking with someone who has departed, who's gone to the other side of the veil. But I have to say that one of the things that's so fascinating about the work that we're doing, and totally unexpected, is that when we get together, we have very few human spirits that show up. Most of what shows up is not human. These are much bigger entities, interdimensionals, and I think you saw, René, also the picture of the commander, who is an incredible being.
Oh, he was great when I seen him. Right
yes.
there, right with her.
If you guys are in the chat room, I just posted that picture a little while ago, and it is a picture of Patricia down in the lower right-hand corner of shot, you can see very clearly this alien face. That's the commander. Just above him and right next to Patricia's face is a little dog.
Yes, that was my dog Micah.
That was your dog.
Away. Yes, and I was shocked when I saw that photograph, but the work that we do, and again, so much of this I have to thank Becky for because of her amazing talent. We are able to connect with these larger entities, and then these types of photographs are taken. And how we do it is we take it of the screen. So on the screen, I can see Becky, and when Helene was working with us, I would see Helene, and there's the little square down at the bottom that would be me. But all kinds of strange things would happen. I mean, when we'd take pictures of Becky, Becky would turn different colors. Sometimes Becky's whole screen would go dark, and she would just disappear. And at one point, when I took a photograph, I showed up in Becky's screen.
Yeah.
So I showed up in my screen, and then I showed up in Becky's screen too, and Becky was gone. So all kinds of different energetic movements were taking place, very unpredictable. But what we were able to do as a group of 3 is identify the beings that were coming through. And oftentimes they were angelic, and they are angelic. So we've seen Seraphiel, we've seen Sandalphon, we've seen Metatron.
They were so sweet, too. They allowed us to take a picture of them in my room and show up. And it was just so sweet. And Patricia also seen them. It was amazing, wasn't it?
That was incredible. And I sent you that photograph also, Renee, and that one is also posted on our supernaturalgirls.com website. It was an amazing photo of an angel that showed up in Becky's window.
Right.
And I don't mean just the window in Skype. The way her Skype camera was faced, we were able to see part of her actual window in her room. And that's where the angel showed up very clearly, an angel. But again, Becky, I have to say, Becky takes photographs of the air outside, and she's able to get orbs and angels and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, how do you do this? But anyway, so this showed up during one of our sessions, and it was remarkable. We ended up with, I think, 12 or 13 pictures of that angel in Becky's window.
Now, what's the deal with the blue hands and with you guys turning blue?
Well, that's energy. That's everything in life has vibration. And what it is they've worked with Patricia and I, they've worked with us to higher our vibration. So once that vibration is on the move, and we're pulling it up, and it's going up higher and higher, it comes through your physical body, and you see the color of that vibration. And that's how come lots of times Patricia or I can actually see through and into the spirit realm right in the room, because we're up at that vibration. Our bodies are even showing the colors of that vibration, and we're seeing what's in the room, and we start snapping pictures, because Patricia's got some great pictures also she's snapped of my room and that, like you said, the angel and others. So I think what they did and have been doing is working with us to higher our vibration so that we can also get pictures and also be up there so that we can dwell in those realms.
And it's like, if you see that one of my face that's totally blue, it's like a dark blue. It's very weird.
Yes.
Yeah, I posted that. Very weird.
And as Becky explained, because I said, what in the world is going on with this blue color, dark blue? And I liked Becky's explanation. I mean, basically, Becky, what you had told me is it's kind of like what we're doing is we're putting our hands, we're putting our faces right into that other realm.
Right.
And so that's why we look blue, because we're actually in that other realm.
Right.
And we've also taken photographs where you'll see a vortex. It's like this field of energy that you can actually see in the photograph. And I sent you one of those as well, Renee. And interestingly enough, I just came across some Bigfoot information where people that have worked with Bigfoot claim that they're interdimensional, which we agree with that. And they also, in some of the photographs, they're able to capture the same vortex that Becky and I are working with. So there's some connection there of how you move through dimensions. And that's what we're doing with the Scole Experiment now. We're moving through dimensions. And also, let me mention, if I could, when Robin Foy saw our first pictures of the coyote and the orb, he was amazed. He said, I have never, ever seen a photograph like this that didn't have a person behind the camera. This was in the middle of the night.
Oh, right. That's right.
There was no one taking the picture. No, we were not on the driveway. This was a trail cam photo. He said, I've never seen this before. So we knew we were in uncharted territory when he came back with that kind of feedback. And that's very exciting. Yeah. Now we know we are definitely in uncharted territory. I say to Becky, if I show up at your house during one of our sessions, this could get expensive. I'd have to buy a plane ticket and fly home. But the energy gets so intense, that's what it feels like is going to happen sometimes, that I'm just going to be transported out of this room into Becky's house. It's a very strange, unnerving feeling at times.
Wow. Mm-hmm. I can imagine. What do you feel like, the most bizarre thing and unexpected on your parts that happened, Becky? Do you have an experience where it just blew your mind that you weren't expecting at all?
Yes, I was in my room one evening, and it was in the evening, and all of a sudden I heard this lion's roar. I mean, like you would hear a lion that was 2 inches from you, that loud. And within the roar, I heard many, many, many voices. And they were all talking, and that was just extraordinary. And then it was gone, and there was a whoosh, like an energy that just whooshed by me, and a flash of light in the room. And I'm still trying to figure out exactly what that was all about, but that was just absolutely amazing. I jumped because I didn't know what was right there, right next to me, and I looked and I didn't see anything. But boy, it was an absolute lion's roar. Within the roar, there were many voices. So I am trying to figure that one out still. And that just recently happened, just like, a month or 2 months ago.
Wow.
Yes, and it was pretty amazing. I can't figure that one out yet. And usually I'm pretty good at figuring these things out.
Now, did you see anything, or was it just all auditory?
Yes, there was a huge flash in my room. And I felt, and the windows were all closed, and I felt a whoosh of breeze go right by me, right over me.
Wow.
Yeah, it was just amazing. And I'm, why in the world would there be multiple voices all talking at once through a roar of a lion? So that has puzzled me. That's one thing that has recently happened, and it has kind of puzzled me. I'm trying to figure it out.
Could you make out anything that any of the voices were saying?
No, they were all talking. They were all talking. It could have been like about 30, 50 people talking, and they could have been talking like to 3 or 4 people at one time, or back and forth. I absolutely knew they were talking to each other, or maybe even saying something to me within the group, but I couldn't remember. And that instant, I was wide awake. I couldn't remember what was being said. So, unless it's just some form of implant that will be coming up later, that will be needed to know.
Right.
Which happens quite often in my life.
Yeah, you'll get the interpretation later somehow.
Yeah, yes. I did want to say, though, too, Patricia and I, like she said, we do have many different entities and different beings that we work with that come through, but we also have family and friends and loved ones on the other side. And I wanted to also let you know, a few days back on Supernatural Girls, Helene came through and was speaking, right, Patricia?
That's right, yes.
And that same morning, and I had to tell Patricia, there was so much going on in my house that day that I didn't get a chance to tell her, but I told her the next day. Helene showed up on my laptop. Her exact face, her whole face, her hair, curved hair and everything, and Patricia got the exact picture of Helene that she took when we were all working together. She looks exactly like that, and she is still on my laptop. So it's not like she's left us. She's still there working with us.
Yeah, Helene has recently transitioned, and we did acknowledge that at the time on this show. and announced her passing. So it hasn't been very long. What has it been? Just a couple months?
Not even. Yeah. I mean,
And
she died
real
March.
quick.
Yeah.
Wow. So she really is still around.
Oh, yes.
Do you feel like she's going to help you in the Scole experiments?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
That would be
absolutely.
great.
Yes, I know she is helping us.
Now, you've got a new psychic that's sitting with you.
Yes.
And can you tell us a little bit about him? So he's a supernatural boy.
He's a supernatural boy. George Lugo, he's extremely talented as a medium, and he's worked with people all over the world, everybody from royalty to the homeless. And he's incredibly astute at picking up on detailed information. So when a person has passed, he was very impressive to me. He was able to read my information about my biological father, which no one else had been able to read that accurately. He was amazing, and that's why I thought to talk about him with Becky and invite him in to see if he was a fit for our work. Now, what's interesting about George is he's very he's better than us at communicating with people who have passed. But when it comes to the larger entities, that's a new one for him. Yeah. So he's working on that. But every day he's doing, 14, 15, 16 readings for people around the world who want to talk to people who have passed away.
Sure.
Whereas Becky and I are not on that frequency very often. We tend to be much more on the interdimensional or the angelic frequency, or whatever you want to call it. We talk with entities. And so, it's funny, I was talking to you, René, the other day, and I said, there's a lot of people that are here on Earth, and I don't even want to talk to them now. Why would I want to talk to them? What's the point? Right. It's like they don't become more interesting when they die necessarily. But so I find these entities that Becky and I and now George are working with much more fascinating. They have expanded our perception tremendously. And I think for everybody listening tonight, this is a wonderful gift because it does help to make all of this very normal. And for people who really do want to unhook from the matrix, the media that tells you how you're supposed to think, this is a great way to do it because you begin to realize how small and insignificant all of this other stuff that's going on in everyday life is. And it allows you this larger perspective. It allows you to open your heart and to see a much bigger picture of the universe. So again, this is a fun thing that Becky and now George and I are all working on. And we do want to see what proof we can bring through. But it's also a healing for everybody if they want it.
Right. Now, and let's suppose that they do. So what do we do?
Well, again, one of the things we're talking about doing is something that you mentioned a little while ago, is inviting people into the session so that people can have the same experience that we're having and get messages directly, take their own photographs of the screen on Skype and see what they pick up. I mean, again, we don't own this. This is energy that's available to anybody. It's just that we have a specific ability that allows us to bring it forward. So again, it would allow other people of an experience of this and a healing. I mean, again, when Becky, when you first became ill, we did a number of healings during the Scole time. Helene and I did for Becky, and all kinds of different entities showed up and did different types of healing for Becky. And so now, Becky, you're doing great. Thank God.
Yeah.
And
wonderful.
We did something similar for Helene, but it's unfortunate the type of cancer that she had spread so rapidly, and it was in such a late stage by the time they discovered it. So, but again, when we did these types of healing experiences for Becky, it was very powerful.
Very powerful, yes.
Yeah, the entities were amazing in what they were able to do. So we'd like to be able to offer that to our audience and to see, as you and I had discussed also, René, having a one-time event even to introduce it to people. So everybody can have this experience through us. And I think it would be great great fun. It would be very enlightening. And again, what is this all about? It's about our own freedom, our freedom to explore these other dimensions, not be caught in just one and think that that's it. There's so much more to the world.
Right. We're part of everything. We're part of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think it really is a good time for it, because I think people are sort of breaking out of the, standard authoritative organizations and everything else, and starting to think a little bit more for themselves and want a more direct experience for themselves without, maybe an intercessor. But now, you were talking about earlier about, with the blue pictures, which I was posting in the chat room, and you were saying that was an indication of your vibration being raised, and you said that the spirit team were helping to raise your vibration?
Yes, and it's palpable. When they start working on us, it's almost like brain surgery. We can actually feel them inside of our heads and above our heads and working around our shoulders, and it's very, you feel it, and it can be disconcerting because it's extremely powerful. But they do that work with us, yes. And
is there a way, or do you have a suggestion, either one of you, for how individuals who are not been identified as having, necessarily any extra psychic ability, but we all do have some, how do we raise our own vibrations?
Well, one thing to consider is being in a group, because the Scole Experiment was successful because it was a group, and they also had a group that they worked with on the other side. So just as, for example, if you're talking to your Aunt Sally, who passed away, and she's kind of on her own trip on the other side, doing her healing and doing her guardian angel work or whatever she's there to do on the other side, she's one entity who's doing that. But with the Scole Spirit Team, it was a group of spirits that came together to do this work, which made it much more powerful.
Right. So, and am I correct in that those guys, those skulls that originally sat, it was a team of 4, right?
Yes, but they also had other mediums that came and went, and I think there was a core group of 4.
But these 4 were not necessarily identified as psychic mediums, were they? They were psychic researchers, or were they psychics?
Actually, they were mediums. Robin he identifies himself as the lead researcher, which he was, but he's also a very talented medium.
Oh, I see. Okay. What about the others? Were they all mediums, or were they just dedicated to this experiment, this research?
The core group was, yes. They were all mediums. And then, again, they had other people that they invited in to sit with them who participated in a mediumship role, even if they didn't consider themselves mediums. And then they had other people come in, just lay people who were interested in their work, and they would sit kind of in a gallery and have experiences there as well. So it was a mix, but they were the core group were mediums.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I was getting onto maybe just, could just an ordinary person do some research or experimentation in this area, but maybe it is necessary to have someone that's a little bit more plugged in.
I think it's helpful. And also, you're navigating uncharted waters when you do this, so you need somebody, in my opinion, I don't know what you think here, Becky, too, but it is helpful to have somebody who has some knowledge and awareness of the other dimensions and how to speak to these entities and how to recognize who's who. We've never had a problem with negative energy, ever.
Right.
We're protected, and we've made sure of that. And actually, I have to give Helene credit for always checking the energy and always making sure we were protected in everything that we did. So we've never, ever had that issue occur. So, and again, it's experience. Helene was an expert with the angelic realm as well as identifying energy that was not friendly. So again, I would say, get a group together, but see if you can get people together that have some knowledge.
Sure. I guess you could kind of get into some trouble if you didn't know what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's right.
You might not know what you're going to pull in.
Well, and again, it's about, what are you afraid of? We're really afraid of parts of ourselves more than anything else. We're afraid of
you don't want that
us.
ball of energy floating around.
Yeah.
So it's, but it's the ability to control your fear and not project it outwards. And those are finely tuned things that people need to learn to do before they embark on something like this.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I did find the photograph, Patricia, of the coyote in the orb. It's just an amazing shot. I'd love to print that out and frame it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That's so cool. I'll probably put it in my room or something. Probably have coyotes showing up around here. I already got the orbs. Now,
and did you see the beautiful angel orb that I caught? That was 2 feet from me. He's all in white. He has blue wings and golden hair.
Did I have that one, Patricia?
Yes, I sent that to you also.
Now, I've got the angel in the window I've got.
Okay, this angel was 2 feet from me, and he's all in white, and he was like in an orb, and he stretched open and up. And I was
yes,
watching.
I do remember that now. Yep.
Yeah, he is so beautiful, and the energy and the love that came from that was incredible.
Wow. Now, when did that happen?
Oh, that was probably, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 months ago. It was quite a while ago. But I mean, I've had angel pictures since then and had wonderful experiences, but this one was my favorite because, I mean, 2 feet from me and just absolutely gorgeous.
Now, was that, did that occur during one of your Scole sittings, or was that?
No, that occurred as I was sitting in my living room.
Oh.
Yes,
wow.
And I started to hear distant chorus singing, like way in the background, and I was listening, and I turned my head to the right, and there was like a beautiful bright orb, and then it just opened and stretched up. It was an angel, and I usually keep my camera around with me so I can snap pictures because I'm always seeing things all the time. I mean, it's never, ever, ever stops. So I like to capture the pictures of them, and they allow me to, or my vibration races up high enough so I can, and bam, there it was. It was just so beautiful.
Wow, that's amazing. And what were you doing when it happened? I mean, were you meditating?
Actually, I was just, when I was sitting here relaxing, I was listening, to the birds and enjoying nature, and because it's a huge window right next to my chair there. I was just sitting there and enjoying it and relaxing and thinking what I'm going to be doing in my future. Actually, I was thinking of that. What does the future hold, and what challenges am I going to have, and this and that, and then all of a sudden the angel appeared. I caught sight on the corner of my eye of the orb, the bright orb, and then it opened right up, and it was an angel. And I was just amazed. And the feeling, it's like you poured a warm, loving, secure, never want to leave that spot feeling right over you.
Wow, that is wild. Well, it's time for us to take another break, and we're going to be back in just a couple minutes with Patricia Baker and Becky Andreasson and more on their experiments beyond the Scole Experiments. We'll be right back.
Hello, everyone. Lorian Fenton here, host of the California MUFON radio show, asking if you'd like special access to exclusive and amazing information about UFOs, the paranormal, and all things unexplained. If you're nodding yes, then join IRN's Insider Club. As an Insider Club member, you'll get an all-access pass to premier Inception Radio Network content for only $4.99 a month. This includes live UFO and paranormal conferences, live streaming UFO skywatches, exclusive IRN radio and TV productions, and of course, paying radio with MJ and Ken Storch. So don't wait any longer. Visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com and click on Member Login to join IRN's Insider Club and get your VIP access today.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best. Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to Night Vision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hello, IRN listeners. This is MJ saying hello and sharing an awesome secret I discovered. It's called DreamAnalyst.com. Fresh, raw, organic ingredients are used to create all their products. They are made in very small batches to ensure quality and freshness. Handmade in the USA, each product is created with care and with the finest organic ingredients. There are no preservatives, dyes, or chemicals in any product. Stop by Dream Nuage and relax. That's DreamNuage.com. Simple, raw, organic.
You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett. My guests tonight are Becky Andreasson and Patricia Baker, two psychic mediums, and they are working with other entities and other dimensions in some experimentation that is similar to what was accomplished by the Scole Experiments in the 90s. They're going beyond the Scole Experiment. So they're going to keep us updated on their progress. And, you know, while you guys were taking a break during our little station break a few minutes ago, we just sort of carried on our conversation. We should have just stayed on the air because we were talking a little bit about Betty Andreasson, Becky's mom, and I was asking a few questions about that. And Becky, you want to share with our listeners what you were telling me about your mom's experiences and your experiences?
Yes. What we discovered, Mom and I discovered, is that it's like taking two different roads. I'm on this road and she's on that road, but we end up meeting at the center. And whatever is needed to know or an experience that has happened, it's the exact same thing. So they're telling us the exact same thing, only my road is this road and her road is that road. And it's pretty amazing. I mean, even Mom says that is amazing, and I need to, take note of that. And I've taken note of that. And I just love it. It's like they want to double check. It's like they're doubling up to make sure whatever needs to be out there is going to be out there.
Yep. We all get there by our own doorway, like we were talking about.
That's right. And of course, there's been things that have happened to every single person in my family, my immediate siblings and my mom and even my dad. And the thing is in order to know and understand things, it's a lifetime term. It's going to be something that's lifetime, and you have to either say yes or no. And you can say no. It doesn't have to be. So, and a lot of my siblings and family members, my own children and my grandchildren even, a lot of them have experienced these things but won't bring them out into the public. They're not ready to be involved. They don't want to let the public know. And, it takes a lot to go out into the public because you have all different opinions from people. Some like it, some believe, some don't like it and don't believe. But and you have to handle that. So I understand why they say no at times, but it takes a lot. It's a lifetime commitment if you say yes, and I did say yes.
Wow. Did you get more than you bargained for?
Well, that's the thing. I guess it was in my DNA. And that's another thing. It is in your DNA all the way back because it's been in our family all the way back. Experiences, and even my mom's family, and even my dad's in different ways, so it's been in the family, and it has a lot to do with the DNA also, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Now, when Becky, when your mom was having her experiences, you were present for some of that, right?
With some of it, yes, I was. With some of it, I was present, and but a lot of times, when they're there, they keep it so that you don't remember things. They will release it later, or sometimes if your will is strong enough, you can dig it right out of there. And I have dug it right out at times, and so has Mom. So, but there are different things that have happened that, I have been around Mom when they've happened.
When you were first around them, you were just a young girl, right?
Oh yeah, that's what I said. Ever since in infancy,
was that scary then, or you just? It was just a matter of course for you already. And
well, I'll tell you, I'd never even seen a gray until I was 11 years old, until the Andreasson affair. That's the first time I ever seen a gray. I was always working with a female being that was called Ishta, and I was working with the elders, and then these other beings that looked like smaller elders. And I always thought it was family. They looked human. So there was never really any fear at all.
Yeah, that's really wild.
It is.
And now you've got a book that you're working on.
Yes. Yeah,
about your experiences.
Yes.
I think that's really a great idea because it will then show, that there are different ways in. Your mother had her experience and got there one way, and you're basically getting to the same information and the same goal, but in a different way. So that's good, because everybody doesn't have to have exactly the same experience.
That's right, absolutely. To get the answer, to get the exact correct answer. That's right. And that's how it's been. We've realized that and noticed that, and it's pretty amazing. Even Mom feels it's amazing, and I do too. It was like, wow, when we realized it, it was really amazing to me.
Wow. Let's see, I have a question from the chat room, if you don't mind. Carol is asking, is Becky the Andreasson child who was frozen and not moving by the aliens observed by her mother?
Right. That's right. And then I was it felt like I broke out of it or I was taken out of it. And I had seen different things down there. And I was with a gray called Jessup. And later they took a ball of light, and it was like a ball of light, and let us all up into the bedrooms, and we went to sleep. And the next day, I'm thinking this, and I was frightened. This is the first time ever in my life I was frightened, because I never experienced the grays until that moment in time. So I thought I was dreaming, some kind of scary dream, and it kept on plaguing me and bothering me. I was so young and stuff, so 11 years old. So I finally went to my mom and told my mom, and she let me know that it wasn't a dream and comforted me and showed me the blue book, and I touched the blue book, and my hand lit all up, and she told me more about it, and I told her what I experienced, and that was it. And it was not to be spoken of out of the house, and I'm glad she told me that, and it wasn't to be spoken out of the house, because nobody at that time in my life and other people's lives were ready to hear any of this. I don't think it's taken a long time for people to understand that this is all real.
Well, I can kind of understand that. I would imagine it's difficult for a lot of people.
Yes.
It threatens their sort of version of reality, or their goes against everybody's programming. So it's kind of tough.
Right. That's right.
Kind of tough. Now, Patricia, gosh, we're getting down to the last 15 minutes of the show. I can't believe it. It's just gone so quickly.
I know. This has been so much fun. It has gone too fast.
Yeah. Now, you are also an author. And can you tell us about your book and about, how we can get it?
Yeah, it's just a little handbook. It's a mini book called Dream Calm, and it's just basically a guidebook to help people to remember their dreams and how to work with their dreams. It's very short and to the point. People don't have a lot of time today, and I wanted to make the dreaming process a little more available to people, answer some questions, and give them a format to follow. So it's Dream Calm, and it's available on Amazon.com as just an electronic download from Kindle. It's, I think, all of $2.99 or something like that, or $3.99. It's very inexpensive, but for people who are interested in taking that leap into the dream reality, it's a very easy handbook to follow and use. And I'm working on a new one called The Emotion Potion, which is how to work with your feelings. It's basically a formula for a happy life. Because I feel the one big stumbling block for everybody today, no matter what kind of work they're involved in, is knowing and learning how to work with your own emotional self. So that's the book I'm working on now. And again, it's a stumbling block. And I see for people in the spiritual realm who are doing work like this, what Becky and I are doing, or working in a radio station, it doesn't matter. People need to learn how to handle their emotions. So that's my new project, along with Scole.
Yes, and if people would like to see the pictures that I've taken over the years, I do have them on my website, which is BeckyAndreasson.com. And they can go there and see. I've posted up a lot of my pictures, especially my cross orbs with crosses in them, which I've researched and looked up, and that's one of the oldest symbols there is.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That is, well, speaking of orbs, Sky from the chat room asks, have they ever had an orb communicate with them through telepathy?
Well, that's what my angel did. It was a bright orb, and then it just opened right up and swooshed up, and it was an angel, and I heard singing, coarse form of singing, and I felt this pour right over me, this feeling of just total security and love. It was just amazing, and even though it happened only a few seconds, it was just immense and amazing, and I wouldn't leave that if I could. I would have stayed there.
Wow. Well, now, if I could take advantage of my two good psychic friends here, my house is full of orbs. I mean, anytime, day or night, I can just, pick up my cell phone and click on the video camera, and I can take images of orbs anytime, all the time. And would any of you have any idea why that would be? Why I have so much going on here?
I just heard loud and clear, because I'm actually sitting in the room where we do the Scole Experiment, and there's a number of beings that have shown up tonight to be a part of this. And what they just told me is that your house sits on a particular ley line.
Yeah, it feels that way.
Yep, that is open. And so these things come and go from at least three different dimensions into your house and on your property too. It's not just your house. It's in your yard and even in your driveway. They're saying that these things you could take pictures of. So that's the reason for it. There's a lot of electromagnetic flow that occurs there.
It's so weird. As much as I'm into, places and locations and ley lines and energy spots, I never even thought of that for my own house here. But that makes so much sense. How do you find out, or can you find out where the ley lines are?
There is a wonderful researcher by the name of Peter Shampoo. He's actually located here in the Berkshires, and I'll make sure to give you his contact information. He can actually do a chart for you of your spot, of where you're living, and tell you exactly the energies you're at the effect of.
Oh my gosh, you know what? I think I may have met him. Is his name spelled like with an X on the end?
Yes. Yeah,
I believe I met him at a conference in Connecticut.
Yeah, Peter's wonderful, but he could definitely give you that. I think we had this conversation about him. He's very knowledgeable, and he is a pioneer in this field. He's on the leading edge of all of this research, and I know he could give you the information you're looking for.
Oh, that's wow.
Now here, for example, where we started having all of these experiences with Scole and everything else, Peter told us that we are sitting on Precambrian rock, which is the oldest rock on the planet. But there's also a lot of stress faults. So he said if people didn't know how to handle the energy, they could get very stressed out from it. So, but Peter's the guy. He's the man to go to for that kind of information.
Now, I think that's CHAMPOUX.
Yes.
Yeah. People in the chat room are wanting to know.
Yeah.
And so basically this is what he does for people. You can contact him.
Yes.
And he will do this. Oh, that's amazing.
Yes.
We're going to have him on the show sometime.
Yes, you should.
You guys probably have had.
We have had him on the show. We talked about Salem, actually, and all of the energies that lie underneath Salem. It was a lot of fun, yeah. He's taken it further. He's always doing more and more research about this. So he'll be great fun on the show.
You're not far from Salem, right?
About 3 hours from Salem.
Oh, 3 hours. So I thought you were a little bit closer than that.
And we're sitting pretty squarely in the Berkshire area, which I guess, from what I've been told also by Peter, sits atop a large bunch of crystals that run in caves underneath. So, again, he was the one who explained all of this to us about the energy, and which may help a lot for these doorways that appear and open on the property and while we're doing Beyond Scole.
Wow. That's an amazing place that you have out there in the middle of the woods. And then I could think, Becky, you also live in a remote location, don't you?
Yeah, I'm in the country. I'm in Virginia.
Do you think that helps what you're doing? The fact that you are surrounded by nature?
Yeah, because it's a lot more quiet, for one thing. And also the nature, surrounded by nature. It's a higher energy level of nature. And you're working with nature, so I think it's great. And I really think it's an advantage to be in the country.
Yeah, I can see how that would be. And I've noticed a difference. I've moved to this location where I am now about 2 years ago, and where I was before really didn't have much of a yard or garden area at all, and it was mostly had paving stones all over it, you know. But here I have a lot more grass, a lot more trees, a lot more plants, and then I've been putting out things. And it has made a huge difference in my life. And I know that's what it is. I can feel it when I go out, and I spend so much time outdoors.
Yes, and another thing that's wonderful to do is, I'm well known for it in my family, is walking barefoot. So that you're connecting right to the energies of the earth as you're walking or sitting out there barefoot.
That's right. That's right. You seen any Bigfoot out there?
No, actually I haven't. And my neighbor's 2 horses are probably glad that I haven't.
Oh, yeah. Patricia, have you ever had any out there?
We have had an interesting experience here. Now, we did have a sighting one town over a number of years back. But even more interesting, on Supernatural Girls Radio, we had a couple of people on the show who had Bigfoot encounters. And again, these beings are interdimensional. So when we were preparing for the show, all of a sudden I'm walking through the hallway and I hear the sound that a Bigfoot makes. It startled me. Just like Becky's roar, not quite probably as dramatic as that, the lion's roar, but oh my gosh, because you know the noise they make it goes all the way through your to your toes. And then what happened was, on the show we did play some of the calls and the sounds that the Bigfoot makes that were taped up in the Pacific Northwest, and it was exactly the same thing that I heard that day. So I know they're here and they're around, and I have found some marbles, which I hear they leave for people, that showed up out of nowhere. Again, we are in the middle of nowhere, so it's like, where do these marbles come from? But I hear that's one way they communicate. So I'm waiting. I think someday we're going to have a face-to-face with Bigfoot here.
So. Yeah.
That would be great.
I'd love it. I mean, to me, all of this is normal. And this is the thing that is so great working with Becky. Becky and I both feel the same way. The paranormal is normal to us.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
These things, they may startle us because we're going about our daily routine and all of a sudden something will come in, but they don't really scare us. We've accepted this. And that's why we feel we can help other people to learn to do the same. And again, it expands your consciousness rapidly, your ability to heal yourself rapidly. It changes the parameters in a terrific way. So that's what we're hoping to share with other people with this work.
It's true. I mean, many, Native American people, these things are just normal. I did a documentary on Bigfoot. It was called Bigfootville for Discovery Networks, and some years ago, and it was in my old stomping grounds in Oklahoma. And we spent a lot of time with a Seminole medicine man, and he was wonderful. He's actually in the film, and I think the film's on YouTube, so you can see it for free if anybody's interested. And you reminded me of that earlier on when you were talking about these beings that, sort of make you forget things. And I remember there were several different names that, the Indian tribes around where I grew up called these Bigfoot creatures. They don't call them creatures. In fact, the medicine man, his name is Kennedy Wise, told us that, they're just another tribe, They're another tribe. And they called them Ihozah, which meant make you forget.
Interesting.
And and he said, you see them, you can see them, but you won't remember it.
That makes sense, because I know Dahani Yawahu, who I studied with years ago, she used to take people out to where she knew Bigfoot were, where they actually had a camp. And she stopped doing it because she said, gosh, I'd take these people out there and we'd hike up into the middle of nowhere. And then as soon as they'd see these big shapes coming, it would just trigger something in their brain and they'd pass out. And then Dahani was left standing there with these people that had passed out. She said, that was the end of it. I'm not bringing anybody with me anymore.
Yeah.
So but you can see where that would happen. These enormous, large shadow shapes as they move towards you from another dimension into our dimension. how your brain would have a hard time understanding that, and it would make you forget or pass out or both.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I can't believe how late we're getting here. We've got 3 minutes left to go. So I want to remind everyone to check out your website, supernaturalgirlswithaz.com. Lots of pictures on there. Now, Becky, your website is at BeckyAndreasson.com?
Yes, BeckyAndreasson.com.
Okay, and you got photos up there too. Lots of cool stuff to see, because there's been some amazing images. Now, I did put, a lot of images in the chat room. I'll put some more on my Facebook page tomorrow, or in Night Vision Radio Facebook page tomorrow, so that more people can see them. But I'll also put the links to your site so you can see them all. That you guys have been doing great. Now, what's the next step with the Scole Experiments?
The next step is, again, to bring the energy up even higher, so that Andrea and his team and a lot of these entities that we've come to know can actually start to manifest.
Right.
And that'll be the next step, is to bring them here into physical matter reality, create a space for that to happen.
And has your new psychic, George, has he sat with you already?
Yes.
Okay. And so I know you said he was working on getting in touch with the different dimensions and the different entities, because his specialty, by necessity, because of his work every day, he probably has so many clients who are wanting to reach loved ones. So his specialty is really meeting people on the, who've passed to the other side. So what was his reaction after your first sitting with him? Was he was he blown away?
Yes, I would say so. Would you, Becky?
Yeah, I think so.
He probably thought, what in the heck am I getting myself into?
But what's great about George, too, is he's not afraid either. And he just accepts these things. He said, this is new for me. But again, you can't come into this with a level of fear, because the fear will stop the process. So thank goodness George is a pretty fearless guy. And he was also able to get in touch with Helene not long after she passed. And we spoke with Helene through George, which was a real treat.
Yes.
So, and actually an entity has shown up for George, an Asian-based entity who's related to Kuan Yin, who has come to teach him how to change his frequency so that he can see some of the things that Becky and I see. So we're going to see how that goes. We're very excited about all of this.
Wow. Well, I think we are right down to the very end of things here. I want to thank you guys for coming on and being with me and joining in tonight and giving me a really, really good show. Everyone in the chat room really enjoyed it, and I know all the other listeners did too. And I hope you'll agree to come back sometime and give us an update on what you're accomplishing.
Sure.
All right, guys. Thanks so much, and thanks everyone out there listening.
Thank you,
Hope you'll join us next week. Good night. Good night, Becky.
Good night.